Thanks, guys, for having me out. Sorry for being the only person between you and happy hour, but thank you for thank you for scheduling right next to happy hour. This is quite convenient. So long day. I'm sure you learned a lot. Amazing speakers, and very honored to be a part of this. First off, first tip: marketinggrader.com. Any users of marketinggrader.com in the audience? Awesome. What's your score, sir? You remember it?
We're in the 70s.
70s. That's fantastic.
We're
Oh, nice. Okay, we should be in the 90s. But keep it up. So first tip of the day, marketinggrader.com. You can go to this website. It's free. You put your URL in, and within 90 seconds, you get a 5-page report on how to help your website generate more leads and revenue for you. So there's about 4 or 5 million companies that have done it, and a score in the 70s means you're better than 70% of those companies, which is pretty impressive. So check that out. All right, so Mark Roberge, Chief Revenue Officer at HubSpot. My journey at HubSpot started like 8 years ago. I was very fortunate to sit next to a gentleman named Dharmesh Shah, an introvert Indian student at MIT. We were both in class together, and he had this idea for this company called HubSpot. A year later, I was the first salesperson and 4th employee, sold the first 100 customers, and was asked to scale the sales team. Made a lot of mistakes along that journey, figured a couple things out, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So we were actually really fortunate through that journey that we were in the midst of this time when the buyer context, the thing we talk about so much, has changed dramatically. And the internet really empowered our buyers. And when I looked at the sales teams around us as we were starting to scale up, they seemed to be very me-focused. And that didn't seem to work in this particular buyer journey. When I talk to these sales teams, they say, okay, what I do is I buy a list of people who I think are a good fit for me. I call the CEO with my elevator pitch, and whoever picks up the phone, I jam through my sales process. And that seemed really, really broken. And I wanted to basically go out and try to enable my salespeople, I don't know why that's missing, but I'll tell you what it says, enable my salespeople to be able to use technology to listen to the marketplace, not buy a list, listen to the marketplace and to who's actually entering our buy cycle, to engage with them in the way they want to be engaged with the information they want to be engaged with. And not jam them through our sales process, but assist them with their buying process. So that's really what we set out to do, and we had 2 goals in doing that. I think I can move around here. You got me over here? Hey. So, okay, cool. So, oh, nice. Great job. All right. All right, so the 2 goals I had was, number 1, I want to use context to be able to create a much better buying experience for my customers. I'll tell you how we did that. A lot of people refer to that as social selling today. And the other thing I want to do is I want to use data and science to create an easier sales process for my salespeople. Really lower cost per sale and get these customers coming in really fast, right? All right, first thing, demand gen. How many people in the room, quick survey, have received a piece of direct mail at your office or home in the last 6 months? You open that piece of direct mail up, and you ultimately ended up buying that product. Usually it's like a cruise, timeshare. What was it, sir? Oh, nice. They got you. Okay, so it still works. All right, so we had like 2% in there. How many people in the last 6 months have got a cold call from a telemarketer at home or at the office, got an engaging conversation, and ended up buying that product from that telemarketer? What was it, sir? Oh, nice. Are you wearing it today? Save it for a special occasion, right? How many people in the last 6 months have gone into Google and done a search and research on a product, or gone to social media to ask questions to your peers and research on a product, and ultimately ended up buying that product? Okay? Pretty obvious survey, probably a bit of a, I'll move back over here, probably a bit of a biased group, but I have asked that to a room full of Harvard MBAs, dentists, scientists, pet owners for some reason, and the survey results are always the same. This is a market that's driven by the buyer. The buyer has control. The internet has changed the way that they actually shop. And if I repeat that survey, the funny thing about it, if I repeat that survey on the way you're spending money, on your marketing and sales plans for 2014, and how much you're spending in advertising, and how much you're spending in cold calling, versus trying to help people find you, like creating content and ranking in Google, I bet you wouldn't be as proportional as that survey demonstrated. There's a big point, a big opportunity for businesses to engage with that. So that's the big concept around inbound marketing and inbound selling, is instead of investing all your time in this outbound interruptive tactics, the more you can actually get people to find you, the better. And the more you can leverage content and blogging, that all drives SEO. The number 1 formula here is try to create 2 or 3 blog articles a week and maybe 2 or 3 hours of social media engagement where your people are hanging out, and that's the formula to success. Now, as a CEO, as a startup person, as a sales VP, you are busy, and it's very hard to do that. And the other tip I'll tell you is engage the world of journalism around you to create this content production process. Don't take it on your shoulders to write these blog articles per se. Go find a journalist. You may not have noticed, but the magazine and newspaper industry are not exactly crushing it right now. And these people do not have huge job prospects. And it's unfortunate because they're extremely talented people. So go to Columbia, go down to NYU, find an intern that's a sophomore or junior, or bet a little harder and find someone in the area that's working at one of these publishers that isn't doing very well, and bring them on full time, and set up a schedule. Identify a thought leadership committee at your company. It's your sales team, maybe your engineers, definitely your C-suite, that knows what they're talking about your space. And set up an interview cycle where every Friday morning at 9 a.m., one of those thought leaders sits down with that journalist and does an interview for an hour on a niche subject that you pick out. From that hour interview, that's a long time, that journalist should be able to write a 3 to 5 page ebook just from that one interview, right? They should also be able to publish a 2 or 3 or 4 blog posts, short blog posts from the same interview, each blog post being 2 or 3 paragraphs long. And also come up with a few dozen social media messages, whether Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it might be. That's a lot of content from one interview, and maybe 5, 8 hours of time from a relatively affordable journalist. And now I can schedule that content over the course of the month. And for all those social media messages that go out, they're all pointing to the blog article that it relates to. And at the end of every blog article is a call to action that says, did you like this blog article? Perhaps you'd like the 3-page ebook we wrote. Click here. And they find that the ebook is free in exchange for your name, phone number, email, title, etc. And that process by itself creates a lot of demand, a lot of SEO, a lot of organic traffic, a lot of social media following in the top, and a really nice conversion rate from visit to lead in the middle. That was a key for us in terms of our demand generation strategy. I'll skip that, come back to that. The other piece is that there's, don't tell anyone, but we do cold call at HubSpot. Okay, we have been in Time Magazine saying that cold calling is dead. We do cold call. We get about 20% of our revenue from cold calling. And this is one of those areas where I thought there's a huge opportunity for technology enhancement. So 4 years ago, I stood over the shoulders of one of our cold callers, and I watched how they sourced leads. They were responsible for sourcing 20 new leads a day. It took them about 2 hours. And what they would do is they would do a Google search for a word that they thought our prospects would rank for. They'd click through on the results to a website, spend 30 seconds on it to see if it's a good fit, go into Salesforce, check if it was actually a duplicate lead or not. If it wasn't, go into LinkedIn, find the executive team to call, do some research online to figure out the email formula, find the phone number, type it all into the CRM, find the revenue and the company size maybe in Zoom info, and get all that in there. It took like 20 minutes a lead source. And I got to give credit to John Marcus, who spoke earlier. I hired him many years ago, and it's unfortunate to lose him. He was the sales hacker that cracked the nut on this one. So he wrote this crazy code that the person did a Google search, and the results were red and green, depending if the company was already in the CRM, which is awesome. And then when you click through on the green ones, there was a nice little pop-up, a Chrome extension, that showed all the information that they used to have to get, like the LinkedIn executives and the email formula and the phone number and the company size and all that kind of stuff. And all you had to do is press this add lead button, and it went into the CRM. We were sourcing leads in like 30 seconds instead of 20 minutes. So huge opportunity for technology enhancement. That's something that we have actually commercialized. We've betaed it with 250 customers. Any Signals users? Thank you. Cool, appreciate that. So it's like, that's a free tool. Getsignals.com. Some of the notification stuff this is in beta, but if you email me at mark@hubspot.com, I'll get you into the beta for that sourcing tool. All right, modern sales prospecting. So I get like 25 cold calls a day. It amazes me that 99% of these calls, it's the exact same message from the company every time. Like, hey, Mark, this is John from XYZ company. We have a modern electronic signature product that will enhance the sales productivity of your team. Give me a call if you want to talk. 2 days later, exact same message. 2 days later, exact same message. Who are these people? You're doing this all day? This is insane. Like, I'm hanging up after three words, right? This is not engaging. This is not how buyers buy. This is not a human sales process, right? So at HubSpot, what we did was we took a 3-pronged approach to it. First, research. And everybody does research, check out the website, et cetera. But this is a big opportunity as sales executives to provide our salespeople with technology to truly see a 360 view of our prospects. Our guys know how many times have they come to the website, which pages do they look at, which blog articles do they read, do they follow us on social media or not, do they follow our CEO on social media, have they ever mentioned inbound marketing or inbound sales in social media before, have they ever mentioned one of our competitors in social media before, have they been in one of our drip marketing campaigns, if so, which emails have they opened and which ones have they clicked through on. This is all beautiful context for me as a salesperson to call in on, right? So that's step number one, is the research. Step number two is just being able to monitor exactly what they're doing. So if I'm about to go through like an 8-call sequence with this company, I better know if that calling is working. And traditionally in sales, working means they call me back or email me back. Well, unfortunately, that represents 1% of those people. But a bunch of people are actually clicking through the website. They're actually opening the email that you sent them. They're actually engaging with you in social media. So I need to know about those as signals, right? So that's another tool that we've, the get signals, that's the main feature that we rolled out with, was the ability to basically monitor, sitting right in Gmail or Gmail or Outlook or Apple Mail or on your iPhone. You can get those notifications and know when those people are actually engaging with you. All right, and the final piece is once I know that stuff, I want to engage with them in a very human way. Has anyone been called on by a salesperson at HubSpot? Okay. Hopefully, tell me later if they actually do this. I hope they did. I usually find that they actually do this. But this is how the process needs to work at that level. Hey, John, it's Mark from HubSpot. I noticed you downloaded our ebook on how to get more leads through Facebook. I actually looked at your Facebook page today and had 2 quick tips, which I will email to you. Give me a call back if you'd like to go through them. 2 days later, hey, John, it's Mark from HubSpot. I actually found a company in your industry who had success in Facebook that's a customer of ours. I'm going to send you an email on what they did and the results they received to set good expectations on what your plan might be. Give me a call if you want to discuss. 2 days later, hey, John, it's Mark from HubSpot. Great news. I actually ran a marketing grader score of you versus that customer I talked about, and it looks like there's more opportunity beyond Facebook and social media for you to generate leads. Give me a call if you want to talk. I'll send you the report. And then finally, the beautiful one that works, I don't know why, all the time is the going negative. John, it's Mark from HubSpot. I tried you a couple times and sent you some information. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you figured out your Facebook strategy for this year. Give me a call if you ever change your mind. 40% call rate, back rate, for whatever reason. I don't know why. The cheesiest one I got, which we don't use, but you can use it if you want, was some guy called me. He's like, hey, Mark, it's John from XYZ Company. My boss told me I have to call you 6 times in the next month, so do us both a favor and give me a call back. Almost worked, but I didn't go for it. Would you have, Dave? Probably not. The cheese factor was on that one. All right. Another factor here is I geek out on this stuff, and here's an opportunity to really get your prospecting cadence tight. All right, so I would always sit at home and wonder these things like, I know that I need to call a lead the minute it comes in. I know my success with that is huge if I call it within seconds as opposed to hours or days. But if I call someone right now, when should I call them again? Like tonight, tomorrow, next week? And how many times should I try them? Twice or 5 times or 7 times? And as an exec, should I strive to provide my salespeople with 1 lead a month and have them call 1,000 times? Or 1,000 leads a month and have them call it once? Right? So obviously neither end of that spectrum is right, but where is the right answer? And as you start scaling a sales team, even like 4 or 5 people, we start to study this thing because the call volume is so high. Getting the optimal answer to these questions is huge in terms of your overall productivity. This is an example analysis that we did to give you some ideas. So what you see here, I'll try this again, see if I get scared away again. But on the x-axis were the number of attempts that were called. We studied like 40,000 leads. Some of those leads were only called twice. I don't know why. And some of them were called like 12 times, right? And this is sort of a profitability score. So obviously, if you call a lead more often, your likelihood of getting them on the phone is higher, but it costs you more. So where's the optimal rate? And we found that the optimal rate occurred sort of around that 9 range for all leads. But that was here. The smaller guys, the smaller companies, it actually happened a little more earlier, like 6 attempts. And the bigger guys, it happened a little bit later. So now what I could do is I could go in front of the sales team and say, guys, we calculated the ideal path to making the most money at HubSpot. And they all applauded. And I said, guys, we programmed it into the CRM. You don't even have to think about it. Make a call, the lead automatically gets scheduled the next time you're supposed to call it. And they all applauded. And then they said, guys, we created dashboards so every night we can make sure that you're following the right call pattern. And they actually applauded for that too. As long as you have the right culture, they kind of like think, hey, you know, I just want to make sure nothing's falling through the cracks. It's a big worry for a salesperson, big worry for a sales exec. So these are opportunities you have to build it in to make sure every single lead is being treated properly. This is another tech concern that I had is I would go and I actually experienced this with myself, making the first dials of HubSpot. I would go into the CRM, I would leave a voicemail, send an email, and just to log that I sent a voicemail, made a voicemail, and sent an email, and set a follow-up task for 3 days later to call them was like 15 clicks. It was insane, but I knew I wanted to do it because I had to get these numbers. So I had to change that right away. I spent $50,000 year one of HubSpot when we just raised, we were fortunate to raise a couple $1,000,000, but like still, that's a big spend just to hack this together, and we had 2 reps. But what the upside to that was, then the experience was, I leave a voicemail, click a button, I send email, I hit the email button, and it proposes to me the ideal email to send to this person, given the sequence that they are and the type of lead they are. I hit send, and it goes away. And it comes back in my lead queue when it's supposed to be called. So this is beautiful for a sales rep. I didn't have to nag them to log their calls. It was really fast for them. The tool was actually working for them. The CRM was working for them, as opposed to them working for the CRM, and I had all my data behind the scenes. So these are opportunities, like we do have that capability in Signals as well, that we've commercialized some of that as well. All right, modern sales management. So my big thing is I believe sales managers should be maximizing the time that they spend coaching. I wish I could rename my sales manager titles sales coaches. And the best analogy that was told to me about good sales coaching is a golf analogy. I've tried to learn golf for like 10 years, and I've taken a bunch of lessons. And one pro, he was like, all right, Mark, take a swing, and I did. And he said, all right, try this. Turn your grip over a little bit, lean more back in your stance, put more weight in your right foot, think 1 o'clock, not 2 o'clock on the backswing, and push those wrists through faster. I was like, you kidding me, dude? You lost me, right? Another golf pro was like, Mark, take a swing. I did. He said, try this grip. Now take 100 swings. 20 minutes later, how's that feel? You know, it feels really good. All right, now try leaning back a little bit. How's that feel? 100 swings later, oh, that feels pretty good. That's good sales coaching. I know it seems obvious, but every single sales manager I've seen come up through the ranks, they throw up on their new reps with like so much stuff, that huge gap between where they are and where they want them to be, and you can just see that rep's head spinning. So I try to get these guys to focus, like hone in. I know you want to work on 12 things, but hone in on 1 or 2 and really crush it with a personalized training and coaching plan for that skill set. So this is the model I use to hold the whole organization accountable to that, is every single, the afternoon of the second day of every month, I sat down with my VPs who had like 40 or 50 reps under them, and I went through every rep for 2 minutes. I was like, what skill are you working on? How'd you come up with that skill? And what's the custom coaching plan you're going to do? And because that meeting exists, all my VPs sat down with each manager under them, had the same conversation. And because that existed, the managers the day before, on the first day of every month, sat down with each rep and had the same discussion. And that morning, everybody was in their numbers, reviewing what those numbers were, right? So I was able to customize that coaching plan. Here's an example of that chart. So this is sort of like a really high-level sales funnel. Each color here is a different rep on a team. How many leads did they get? How many did they actually call? How many demos did they deliver? How many customers did they close? And the conversion rates between them, right? So I can look at this and be like, wow, this guy in purple is not doing well. And he's broken really bad at this level, the lead to demo. I can use the metrics to drive my diagnosis of his problem. And my first question is, can I get more information through the metrics? Can I drill in? And on that one, I can. I can take that metric and I'd be like, all right, that's either a connect problem or they're getting him on the phone, but the connect sucks. And I can tear that apart. It's either like, oh, their lead worked, they're working a bunch of leads, but they're not getting on the phone. Well, that's an email and a prospecting issue. Are they doing the right cadence? Are they building, are they coaching people through those voicemails? Or they get them on the phone, but they don't move them to the next step. That's sort of a trust development and breaking the ice strategy. So my coaching is going to be very different on those 2 situations. So I can use the metrics to actually drive that. Okay? So the last piece I'll leave you with, I have 0 minutes left, according to this guy right here, is basically on hiring. I love to, that's the killer, is hiring great people. And there's an opportunity. What I did was, before I hired anyone, I sat down and theorized on the top 10 criteria that a successful salesperson would be at HubSpot. And every interview I did, I disciplined, scored people on each one of those criteria. And this is an answer for us, and I'll tell you what our answer was. It's probably not the answer to you, but the process is very valuable. Because after I made those first 8 hires, I could actually go back and see who was crushing it, what I observed in that interview, quantitatively. And those mediocre guys, what I observed. And for those bad people, what I observed. And after I had like 15 of these data points, I actually had enough data to run a regression analysis. And I did that every 6 months. And that allowed us to sort of engineer our own predictive index on what attributes we were observing in the interview that actually correlated with great success at HubSpot. Our 5 were coachability, intelligence, curiosity, prior success, and work ethic. Those were our 5. And I will leave you with, I think these slides will be posted, and there's a couple references for you. If you want, we've got a bunch of email templates that have worked for us. If you want to download those are free. More on metrics-driven sales coaching. I've done an hour pitch on that. You can look at that. And then I talked about Signals, our modern prospecting tool, and then we'll, that number 5 is wrong. I'll have to post that up on my Twitter stream and get that to you, but I'm sure it's available. I will not do the 2 questions. I don't want to leave you guys in the way of drinks, but I will be around for the happy hour, of course, and you can ask questions. Thank you.